Okay, so hi, welcome to Vertex of Abundance. My name is Serene, Priestess, Gorgeous. I'll be your oracle today. I'm here to ascend the throne and get some counsel from the spirits in respect to the Soul Purpose Saturday. So I had this energy come through in the Lunar Lounge video for the Aries New Moon. So go ahead and check into that. We have the energies come back. So we're just going to see what some of the guidance is going to be. We're probably going to use this energy for another couple rounds. It seems to be good. And with the Soul Purpose Saturday, it's more of a sitting with your priest, sitting with your guru, sitting with your guide, and there will be a little bit of a sermon. So let's go ahead and get in here. I have a techno song in my head, and I'm wondering what it is and what the message is with it. Okay. All right, so we actually have the crown is a 7 energy. And let me clean the board up really quick so that it is a legible mess and not some foreign thing. Okay. So it's interesting. At the gate, we have Venus, Neptune, a little bit of Uranus energy of the sun, and Venus is a double Venus energy. So the soul needs to wake up and learn how to navigate the world. That's really what I'm seeing. And the message is, the advice is to take the spiritual sacrifice, take the surrender materially, and begin to work on seeing things from a different perspective. It'll require strongly that we build ourselves up from the inside out. We find some self-worth and value, and that's why we're not hearing the knock at the gate. Spirit is asking us to renew some of the things that we've committed to and put a long-term, maybe even a lifelong effort into, or things that we maybe have been around all of our lives, or that have been an institution or a foundation on us for some time. Those things are going to need to we're going to need to renew and dissolve, find alliances elsewhere, find a new job, find a new team, group, guild, society, network that we belong to. We're going to need to find something of that nature. And if we don't feel celebrated, I mean, we're taking, go where you're celebrated, not tolerated. Close cycles out where you haven't been treated the right way that you need to. A lot of people are looking at getting different jobs. That's exactly what's going on. And with the Soul Purpose Saturday, let's talk about this. So the gift here is the ability to invite energies to go. So take command of the space, take command of the cycle, and allow energy to move to its highest vibrational outcome. And you can call, because this was in reverse, we can call upon the gods and goddesses, the gods and goddess. So we can call upon power, the powers that be, and the powers that are in the situation to move to their highest vibrational outcome, or to come in and bring things into alignment. And what you need to contribute, the surrender and sacrifice for you is going to be self-worth and value. You probably will feel like you've been vilified, victimized, harmed in some way. Something has made you unreceptive to the situation. And it feels to me like it's where you're not seen and where your knowledge isn't honored in a type of environment that would seem institutional. It can be work, it can be things that are just traditional or foundational, the family unit, the home, especially if there's roommates or you're living in some type of community living situation. Now, we don't have the community card, so these communities would be contrived, they wouldn't be authentic. So co-workers, that's a contrived community. An apartment building, that's a contrived community. Church, that's a contrived community. But like a real spiritual group that comes together because they want to, not because they have to, that's different. It feels contrived here. So the gift is for you to be able to curate the experience, to move the cycles out and to close some cycles. Now, the secret here is that you have some agreement, and this agreement is to be honored. So you have to know that you're letting go of karma when you see that the karma has served its purpose. And for starters, the purpose is to recognize it for what it is. Because the devotion here you would have had to marry yourself, yoke your life, combine your life, live inside of this reality. And now you're finding that it's no longer in alignment with you, that you're bigger and brighter and better, and that you're finding yourself. You're going to be coming to a different perspective pretty soon. You need to make room and make space for it. Your power in this situation is you can have self-governance, self-mastery, autonomy, presence, and control over yourself. You might need to reach out and grab it, but it's there for you. That can be as much as leaving behind the marriage. I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing you leave one thing for another thing. Switch a job around. Switch an agreement around, a contract around. You might have this as your manager, and now you have this as your manager. This as your reputation, now you have that as your reputation. You might have this employment contract, and you have a bigger bid come in. You might need to break a lease. You might need to do things like of that nature. So this energy is really over the next 2 weeks, but Soul Purpose Saturday is week to week. Over the next week, pay particular attention. What is around that you can finish? Something's been going on for a long time. There's been a bunch of moving pieces and they're not working together. You feel like you're on an island of your own, and other people are not moving things along or sharing or looking at the fact that you have needs and you're waiting on them to get with the program. So that this week, put into that. That would be the gift to close cycles out. Now, what you'll need to barter in order to use that gift is you'll need to realize that there is some type of spiritual agreement. How you're acting now is going to affect spiritual laws, meaning karma. Now, as long as you're moving from a place of self-worth and value and you are trying to step into your own self, you're trying to show up and participate. Maybe normally you're fearful and avoidant. So as long as you're doing something like that, stepping up and participating, trying to build yourself up, which means stepping into your self-worth and value, then you'll be fully able to use your power. Now, your power in the situation is to have power in the situation. You're actually in control. You've just been convinced that you're not, or you've been getting your needs met from someone else through receptivity and manifestation through attraction, and you're no longer in love with the situation. So your powers of manifestation are going to diminish because you're no longer emotionally receptive. So since you're emotionally ice water now, and you're not this warm flowing, nothing's going to come into your waters. And so you're actually releasing. When a woman leaves or when a female entity leaves, she leaves much more in the mental and the emotional before she leaves in the physical. If you get broken up with on March 1st, the girl has left you in her head already on January 15th. Does that make sense? Unlike a dude, he'll leave you on March 1st, and he's only been thinking about it since like February 25th. So the power in the situation is stepping into your autonomy, stepping into your self-governance, self-mastery, because the agreement is to become aware of the spiritual cycles. You need to see things from a spiritual perspective. You need to see what the cycles were, or else you won't be truly in alignment. That's what the alignment is. If you want to step into self-worth and value, you need to confront the things about your situation both through incarnation, through karma, that you up until recently were unaware. And the only way this is going to come out is through feeling like you had to go down a certain road because other options were taken away from you. The things that once overwhelmed you, the things that once seemed like they were happening to you, the things that once seemed like they were out of your hands, you will have needed to confront and face those things. It would have felt like all powers were against you. It would have felt like purposefully, probably your boss was out against you, or your husband or your father was out against you. Now, it was that you were irrational. You weren't completely in your mind about things, so there might have been some bit of hysteria. I apologize for using that term. I do not like using that term around women. I feel that that's very abusive and confrontational, the word hysterical. However, it is warranted when you have the High Priestess, the Empress in reverse, and the Moon card out. It is warranted. Now, it's talking about you coming into discernment and decisiveness. So I would feel like up until recently, you were in your emotions, you were in your illusions, you were not being given the truth. There might have been deception. It doesn't prove deception. It proves like you were naive, and now you're coming into the fact that you went with the cycle and it didn't work out, it didn't pan out. Now you have a lot of clarity, or a lot of clarity is on the way. I think that's why it's talking about 2 weeks instead of 1, is because this is going to take out effect over a fortnight. It's going to take the full body of the full extent of the fortnight. So my findings are that you're on a cycle of building yourself up from the inside out. The recommendation, what I see as the evolving situation, is there is a little bit of criminal law, a little bit of world law. So you will need to take the spiritual law and bring it into the physical. There could have been contracts, there could have been court systems here. And ultimately it would be through discernment. You are justified, but you had it coming because you were naive and stuck on stupid. This is a lesson of needing to step out into the world through being in alignment. If you're not in alignment, you're inviting the devil in because you're vulnerable and you have your bright light shining. And spirits love light. The spiritual world loves light. But in the shadows of the spiritual world lies the devil. The devil hides in the shadow of God's light. That's how the devil exists. God shining light from heaven, and guess what's hiding in that shadow? The devil. So I'm going to leave that there. Let's pull something from the Ancestor deck. I only have the 22 major arcana here. So the New Orleans Voodoo Tarot. That was the Huno card. Okay, so we have the Sun, Gros Bonange. Gros Bonange on the grounds of, yeah, you're here incarnated in the third dimension, but you have higher dimensional bodies watching you. So you exist in past, present, and future in the same place at the same time. And you were living in the past, living in illusion, living in deception. And maybe it was deception. Maybe there were statements made with the intent to deceive. It would have been through love, through receptivity, through emotions. So marriage, old people that you had emotional romantic feelings for. Perhaps you could never have gone down that road and you were blocked from engaging in passion, love, coitus. You might have had a crush on the wrong person. A boss, a coworker, a caregiver, somebody that you had responsibility for, and there was just boundaries and ethics. And finally, you're out of those feelings. Finally, you're out of that little bubble. And in order to clean up, in order to go on, you have to bring things to light. Maybe not even with that other person. I see that the power is all in your hands, and that the energies where this might represent in the physical is outside. So when that happens, a lot of times you're not sharing what's going on. You might have been physically aroused by a person in your workplace for upwards of a year. And finally, over the next 2 weeks, you are able to step out of that energy, and the other person may never have known. It wasn't said, or if it was said, it was hostile, and it wasn't acted on. And if it was acted on, it would have had consequences, legal consequences. So all of that's going to be over in the next couple of weeks. Now, if you are caught up in a legal situation and it's your fault, you have to take a settlement, or else everything will come out in trial. So a settlement could involve a plea deal as well, if it's criminal. But I'm hearing the word civil right now. 1, 2. Well, we only have 2 swords cards here, and they're both court cards. So that doesn't tell me anything about what's going on in a legal situation. But it would have had to been a judgment, a mediation. HR might have had to get involved. What I'm also being told is that we also need to be mindful and aware that this is the year when a lot of indiscretions are going to come out to the surface. So what does that mean? Indiscretions. If you put things before your responsibilities, if you forsake your responsibilities, if you misuse your responsibility, your authority, you will be revealed this year and you'll lose it. So if you're secretly a wolf in sheep's clothing and you're eating and preying upon people, that's going to be revealed this year. And it happens on all different types of levels. If you're a person not acting in integrity, you're involving yourself in other people's karmic cycles. And yes, on one level, we have to forgive ourselves because we are just a cause and an effect in somebody else's consciousness experience. But I would hate to have been the negative cause in somebody's experiences. Sometimes we accidentally hurt people and it helps them in the long run, but we were that negative experience. I don't want to be that for people, and I'm sure you don't either. So when you are stepping out of integrity, that's what's happening. And it could be this through naivete, illusion, stupidity. I know I've been stupid and made dumb mistakes, even taking too long. I tend to be slow in my emotional responses. So I'm seeing all of that here. Essentially, the findings are that we've had to take a surrender and a sacrifice because we needed to take time to build ourselves up from the inside out, basically self-worth and value from the inside out. So we needed to build ourselves up. And the surrender would have been release. We needed to let go of our vision. We needed to let go of our drives, our desires, our passions, our motivations. We needed to fully flesh those out and then walk away from them from a place of maturity, knowing that we could have done that, and maturity was deciding not to do it. There would have also been something of a relationship, and I'm not feeling an emotional relationship that we're also having to no longer commit to, no longer give to. And it would be harsh right now. It would be cold and prickly right now. We might need to be around this person, and we might not like them. We might have had something built up with them, a working relationship, a business partnership, a marriage, and it's over, and they're back in our lives, but we're not, the love isn't flowing back and forth. So for the next, and so it might have been divorce, might have been the legal thing, but it would be over. Divorce would be over. If there's any legal pending, it would be work, harassment, those types of things. And I'm not seeing a court system. I'm seeing a mediation through HR manager. That seems like a very limited story, maybe 1 or 2 people out there. The larger scale court system would be divorces, but the divorces have already happened here. There's no pending divorces. Now, it can be that everything set up on the female side and the masculine side is the one trying to block it. It won't work in their favor. They have no ground to stand on. And if it's not that, you have nothing to give the situation. You don't have intellect, reasoning, communication, clarity to give to it, and you don't have desires, passions, motivations. You will have decided against this, and you will already have judged not to do this, and essentially you'll be blocking it out because of your emotional needs, what you're wanting, thinking, feeling, and needing. You can't get those needs met in the situation, and so you'll be deciding to act against it. You won't want to show up and compete in this situation, and essentially what that means is that you're not going to build those structures because the devil is lurking behind the corners here. So you will go on this journey, but it'll be in the spiritual, it won't be in the physical. You'll close those karmic cycles out and move on to other ones. You do have places where your energies are needed, and it would be much more advantageous to work towards that. That would be the change you need to make in order to anchor in abundance. Yeah, and this is a spiritual journey, a spiritual lesson. So again, over the next week, over the next 2 weeks, the gift is the ability to close out cycles. The secret here is that there are actual spiritual agreements. Some of these will be spiritual laws. You'll need to have a recognition of perception of the phenomena of these cycles and the spiritual karmic effects of them. Start in places where you've broken up with somebody. You no longer work there. You're no longer married to that person. You're no longer friends with that person. How have you grown since then? What are you aware of on a spiritual level since then? That's the exact place. Now, the devotion will be to yourself and to the God alive in you. So if something has a feeling of disgust, if something has a feeling of resentment, if something has a feeling of not being honored and respected, that's the goddess. That's your soul asking to be honored, to be seen, to be felt, to be heard, to exonerate itself from the cycle, number one. And number two, to express itself and its divinity. Your power is you can do that, and you can build that into your life where you can do it every day and not need to ask permission for it. And just because you don't feel loved, you don't feel seen, you don't feel heard, doesn't mean you need to get it from another person. You need to actually start giving it to yourself. Okay. And then the power in the situation is to do just that, have power, control over the situation. Essentially, it'll be self-autonomy, self-governance, self-mastery, autonomy, for instance, control over oneself, building up system structures, foundations, through means, mechanisms, methodologies, through your techniques, technologies, theories. If you can recognize and see all of those individual theories, techniques, technologies, means, mechanisms, methodologies, you will have sustainability, longevity in your system structures, foundations, because what you'll be doing to maintain all of that is staying in alignment, and that'll be your divinity in the situation. In order for you to navigate this whole thing, you will need to be in alignment. That means in order to stay in alignment, you'll need to confront the places where you feel you have no power. And then you will tear down those things, tear down those system structures, tear down those foundations. You know, the death card is hiding here. I can see it. It's you need to be fine not being happy with the situation. That's your way forward. Decide to let people go. Decide to go out on your own without those people. There's two separate people. There's two separate things that you thought you were going to always have in your life. They're not going to be in your life anymore, and you need to be fine with that. And that's your way out. You're going to feel disappointed, but you have more options when you leave that option off the table. Okay, so that was a Soul Purpose Saturday. I'm just going to take one more major arcana because I haven't done a sermon. So before we have Gross Bonanza, now we have Possession, which is the Strength card. So here, you need to purify your life. You need to clean yourself up. Make it easy so that the light can come through and use your physical vessel as a chariot, as a vehicle. So if you want the angels to come to you and give you aid, leave your door open, leave your windows open, leave your house smelling life. Tell the devils to go home. Tell them to forget your address. Tell them to lose your phone number. Banish them and forbid their return. Decline times nine. Negate times 4. Shut the gate, close the door. And open up the door to bigger, brighter, better, to sacredness, to serenity, to sovereignty. Okay? And that's what's going to bring you out of the stuck on stupid, bring you out of the illusion. This is debauchery. That means external splendor, internal decay. That's the stuck on stupid. Pulling from external resources to fill what's alive in you and really need to give it all to yourself. Then you're not overwhelmed. You can see clearly and you can make a good decision. Because the next is the 8. You move on to bigger, brighter, and better, higher ground with the 8 of Cups. Okay, so it's been an honor and pleasure to serve you today. Thank you for allowing me the privilege to do so. This also means strength, courage, and wisdom. That's the strength card.